Good morning to all the final year students of MSc Chemistry. Now, today this is the first lecture. I can upload my lecture topic wise and lecture wise in an YouTube and provide a YouTube link to all of you in your WhatsApp group. You follow the YouTube link to get my lecture, to catch or to listen my lecture, and simultaneously for each and every lecture I will provide a written notes through a WhatsApp group. So I am going to start a fourth semester paper 1, that is medicinal chemistry, of first chapter, the drug discovery and drug design. Drug discovery and drug design. Drug discovery and drug design. This is the semester 4 paper 1, semester 4 paper 1, chapter 1. Chapter 1, that is drug discovery and drug design. Now, before going to discover or before going to design a newer drug, we would self-recognize why the drugs are needed, either for human body or for animal body. That is, the drugs we need or animals need for the treatment of various diseases. Now, let us discuss why and how various types of diseases caused to human body or sometimes to animal body. Particularly, the diseases to the human body or animal body may be sometimes due to infective microorganisms. Infective microorganisms, which includes a bacteria. An example for infective microorganism may be bacteria or sometimes viruses. Now coming to infections caused to the human body by the infective microorganisms, say bacteria and virus. Now, the bacteriums are a cell one. They have their own metabolic machinery. The bacterium particle is a cell. It has its own metabolic machinery. That means the bacterium will synthesize itself the purine and pyrimidine bases, and bacterium will also synthesize itself the nucleosides and as well as nucleotides. That is, a purine, after synthesis of purine and pyrimidine bases, they combine with a sugar and phosphate unit to be transformed into nucleoside and a nucleotide. And after that, each nucleotide is joined linearly using some kind of enzyme to form a DNA single strand for it. After formation of DNA single strand, using some other specific enzyme, the one DNA strand is held, the two DNA strands linearly held by means of electrostatic attraction, that is double attraction and triple attraction between purine and pyrimidine bases. That is, A bacterium synthesizes purine pyrimidine bases, synthesizes itself the nucleotide. After that, it synthesizes its DNA, and followed by it also synthesizes itself the cell wall. Cell wall, that is, a bacterium will synthesize its cell wall and enclose, that is, whatever the DNA initially synthesized will enclosed with a capsule called a cell wall. Once the cell wall has been synthesized, the bacterium particle undergo cell division into two particles into n number of particles. In that way, the bacterium will grow, will increase its number by the process of its integration, self-integration. Once the bacterium particle number increased in the human or animal body, our defense mechanism is failed to protect our body, therefore causes some kind of cellular disturbances which is called as disease. Now this is about for bacteria. Coming to the viruses, the diseases to the human body will also caused due to the infective virus. Now unlike bacterium, virus is not a cell, therefore it has no its own metabolic machinery. When entered into the host cell, it bind with a respective receptors present in the host cell. Using some kind of specific enzymes, it able to copy the host cell DNA. The copied host cell DNA can be utilized for its integration, for the integration of virus particles. So the virus is unable to synthesize all the materials which are essential for its growth. It simply using some kind of enzymes, it will copy the host cell DNA to integrate itself. Then once the virus particle number increases in the host cell or human body, similar to the bacterium condition, the host cell or the human body or animal body, its defense mechanism failed, causes again different kind of cellular disturbances caused are known as a diseases. Diseases may be different type depending upon the type of virus, depending upon the bacteria, depending upon the type of bacterium. So that a diseases to the human body may be due to the infective microorganisms like bacteria and virus, or the diseases to the human body may also due to the improper balance of growth material. The diseases to the human body may also due to the improper balance of growth material or certain essential substances which need or which require to grow our body correctly. For proper cell function and proper growth of the body, the human or animal body may require some kind of essential constituent substances or essential substances called as growth materials or growth substances. Now the growth material or essential substances includes vitamins, hormones, enzymes, proteins, polypeptides, etc. The vitamins are essential, the hormones are also essential, the proteins are also essential, polypeptides are essential, and enzymes are also essential for the cell for some kind of functions in order to keep the body growth under certain limits. That is, when the growth material like vitamins or hormones or enzymes or proteins or whatever it may be become unbalanced or imbalanced, their balance, if it is not proper, means if there is a deficiency or if there is an efficiency than the metabolic need or metabolic demand. Now from where these growth materials are came? That is, the growth materials like vitamin, hormone, etc. were synthesized within the host cell or human cell or animal cell by the process of biochemical transformations. Biochemical transformations using some starting materials consumed or acquired through the food. That is, the important substances are growth materials. Say for example, this is the cell, human or animal cell. Now using A plus B starting material. Starting materials are A plus B, whatever it may be. These materials are acquiring through the food. Through the food. Now these starting materials are transformed within the cell into either vitamin or hormones or proteins or polypeptides. So the starting materials acquiring through the food can be transformed in the cell into either vitamin or hormone or protein or polypeptide or enzyme, etc. Now these reactions are the chemical reactions. These reactions are further catalyzed by a specific enzymes. Say E1 enzyme. E stands for enzyme. A specific means E1 enzyme. Now E2 enzyme or E3 enzyme or E4 enzyme. So every reaction, every chemical reaction within the cell is catalyzed or facilitated by the specific enzymes. We know the activity of enzymes are highly specific. That means what the specificity means one kind of enzyme, if involved in the synthesis of vitamin, that enzyme is not useful for the synthesis of hormone. That is, for the synthesis of hormone, there is another specific enzyme. Similarly, for the synthesis of protein, again there may be a separate or specific enzyme. So enzymes have specificity in their catalytic activity or in their facilitation activity of chemical reactions. So all these reactions are catalyzed by the enzyme. Hence the process or the reactions are called as biochemical transformations. Biochemical transformations. Biochemical transformations. So every biochemical transformation is under the control of a receptor. Every biochemical transformation is under the control of a receptor. A receptor is a highly specific area present on a cell surface with an appropriate functional groups. This is receptor. This is receptor. The receptor is internally connected with all enzymes. The receptor is internally connected. This is the receptor present on a cell surface which is connected with all kind of enzymes involving in biochemical transformations. through a secondary messengers. It may be calcium, it may be cytosolic, it may be ATP, it may be GTP, called as secondary messenger. So all the receptors are connected with the enzymes involved in the biochemical transformations through a secondary messengers. That means every enzyme of a biochemical transformation will be work only with the response of a receptor present on a cell surface. Receptor present on a cell surface. For example, during the synthesis of vitamins using A plus B through an even enzyme catalysis, if there is a sufficient vitamin has been synthesized, if there is a sufficient enzyme has been synthesized, sufficient means the vitamin which need the metabolic demand. When it is sufficiently synthesized, this receptor will give the message to the respective enzyme, that is E1 enzyme, to be stop for its functioning. Thereby the E1 enzyme will keep quiet, does not transfer any A plus B into vitamin. After that, once the vitamin is consumed for metabolic demand, its concentration will be dropped or decreases. In that case, again the receptor will give the information or message through secondary messenger to a E1 enzyme to start its functioning, to be synthesized again the same kind of vitamin. Then E1 enzyme will start its functioning and synthesize the vitamin. The same situation is applicable for E2 enzyme for the synthesis of hormone, E3 enzyme for the synthesis of protein, E4 enzyme for the synthesis of polypeptide, and etc. enzyme for the synthesis of either hormone or any other growth material. So every enzyme involving in the biochemical processes should be under the control of a receptor. Is it clear? Once the sufficient amount of growth material has been synthesized, then the receptor will give the message to the respective enzyme to stop their functioning after consumption of a growth materials like vitamin, hormone, etc. for the metabolic need or metabolic demand. Their concentration is dropped in the cell, followed by the receptor will again give the message or information to the respective enzyme to be starts their normal functioning to synthesize a respective substance. So this is happen in the normal cell in the animal or human body. Now certain conditions where I already told that the receptor is a conservative or sensitive area present on a cell surface with a specific functional group. Say the receptor may contain some X functional groups and some Y functional groups. There are different type of functional group. They came from the amino acids. Where the receptor is a protein material, protein is nothing but polypeptide. Polypeptide in terms made from the amino acid, where some amino acid consisting of some extra functional group in addition to carboxylic acid, in addition to amine group. Both groups may be involved in the amide formation. Some amino acid consisting of the extra functional groups, they may be free. So the receptor will consisting of some different kind of functional groups. Certain conditions, under certain circumstances or conditions, suppose any antigen, let us discuss what is antigen. Any kind of material which is not useful to our body. Any material is not useful to our body may be termed as or may be called as antigen. Now, under the conditions where if antigen bind, where if antigen bind with the functional group present on a receptor. Is it clear? Any antigens, what is antigen? A material which could not be useful for our body is called as antigen. If any antigens bind with the respective receptor present on a cell surface, then the receptor will fail to perform its normal function. That is, the receptor is unable to control the enzymes involving in biochemical processes. That leads to either deficiency of growth material or efficiency of growth material. When the receptor is unable to control its normal function or unable to control the enzymes involving in the biochemical process, then there may be either efficiency or deficiency of the growth materials. Causes, we know the vitamin deficiency or vitamin efficiency, both will causes a cellular disturbances called as disease. Similarly, the hormonal efficiency, hormonal deficiency, both will causes again the cellular disturbances. Similarly, the protein efficiency, protein deficiency, or an enzyme efficiency or enzyme deficiency can cause a different type of cellular effects called as diseases. So, the diseases to the human body or animal body may be due to the two factors. One is due to infective microorganism when entered into the animal or human body, or may be due to the improper balance of certain important chemical substances which are essential for the body to grow it correctly. So the diseases, so we need a drug for the treatment of diseases either caused due to the infective microorganism or either caused due to the improper balance of growth substances. Now after this, so we are aware regarding the cause of the disease to the human body. After that, we need a drug for its treatment, whatever the disease caused by the both kind of factors or any kind of factor which we discussed, we need a drug for its treatment or for the relief from the disease. So coming to the drug. What is a drug? Any material, any kind of material either obtained from natural sources like plant sources. Natural sources includes plant sources, that is the drugs may be obtained from plant sources, or drugs may be obtained from marine sources, or drugs may be obtained from microorganisms, or drugs may be obtained from animals. So we have obtained some kind of drugs from plant sources, animal sources, marine sources, as well as some kind of microorganism. Example, you take a penicillin. Penicillin is a good antiseptic antibiotic. It is obtained from microorganisms. Similarly, you take streptomycin. Similarly, you take cephalosporin. Any kind of antibiotics are obtained from the microorganisms. So coming to the definition of drug. What is a drug? Any material, you listen carefully, any material that may be obtained from natural sources or that may be obtained from the synthetic sources, that is, that may be synthesized in the laboratory, either natural source or that may be synthetic. So some drugs are obtained from natural sources, some other kind of drugs have been synthesized in the chemical laboratories. So whatever it may be obtained either natural or it may be synthetic. Any material obtained from natural source or from the synthetic one could be used for the treatment of diseases. Used for the treatment of diseases. That could be used for the treatment of diseases for the benefit of patient, to be relieved, for the benefit of patient. That could be used for the benefit of a patient to relieve from the disease. To relieve from the disease, and that could be by the modification of either physiological functions or psychological function. Of a patient. So again, a material obtained either from natural source or from the synthetic source that could be used for the treatment of disease in order to benefit for the patient, to relieve from the disease, a particular disease, by the process of modification of or by changing the modes of physiological function or psychological function of the patient, is called as medicine. Is called as medicine. So a material, by the process of changing the physiological or psychological functions or modes of the patient in order to relieve from the disease, to be benefited, that material is called as medicine. It is not a drug, it is medicine. Now, any medicine that have certain important characteristic properties, a medicine that have an important characteristic properties. That is a medicine which fulfill the prescribed property or a needy property. That includes, number one, a medicine that is non-toxic. A medicine that is non-toxic. A medicine which should not possess any toxicity, either short duration toxicity or long duration toxicity. Number two, it should be easily absorbed. It should be easily absorbed. It should be easily distributed. It should be easily distributed. It should be easily excreted from the body. It should be easily excreted from the body. Number three, it should be easily synthesized. Easily synthesized. Easily synthesized, as well as it should be cheaply available. It should be cheaply available. Now, it should have a desired physical properties. Desired physical properties. Desired physical properties like solubility, odor, odor, etc. So it should be has a desired physical properties like desired solubility, desired odor, etc. Number 5, it should not be harmful to the human or animal body, or it should not be corrosive. It should not be corrosive. Next, it should be show its action, or it should be act in all age groups. All age groups. It should be active in all age groups of all regions. Of all regions. Now again, any medicine, we already discussed what is medicine. Any medicine to be considered it as a drug. Any medicine to be considered it as a drug. It should have certain important characteristic property, or it should be fulfill certain desired properties, like it should not be toxic, it should not produce any toxicity or side effect. Any toxicity or any side effect to either animal or human body. Next, it should be easily absorbed. It should be easily absorbed. It should be easily distributed. It should be easily excreted. That means a drug after its application or administration to the human body, first it reach to circulatory system. After that it is it absorbed by the tissue at a respective organ system depending upon its target, and reach to circulatory system, followed by reach to target. That is, if any drug, if any material suffers from its absorption, without its absorption it may not reach to circulatory system, it may not be reached to target for its to show its action. Therefore it should be appropriately absorbed, that is easily absorbed, and then its distribution must be proper. The drug which administered to the human body must be properly distributed throughout the body. Similarly, a drug after its action, so whatever the action we need, after showing its action in the human body, it must be excreted, or it must be eliminated from the body, otherwise it should produce, or it will produce some side effect. Therefore a medicine or a drug must have a property of easy excretion from the body, either through urine, or either through sweat, or either through tears. So that is the second property. Now it should be easily synthesized. So whatever the medicine could be considered it as a drug, it must be easily synthesized, and it must be cheaply available to all kind of the peoples of society. And then it should have a desired physical properties. A desired physical properties. A medicine to be considered as a drug, it should have a desired physical properties like solubility, like its odor, like its pleasant smell, like its pleasant color, etc. Because any kind of the drug, in order to absorb by the tissue, to reach to circulatory system, and followed by to reach to its target for its action, the absorption is happen only in its soluble form. No solid drugs are absorbed by the tissue. Only the drug in the soluble form can be absorbed by the tissue. The solubility may be in either water or the solubility may be either in lipid. That means a medicine to be considered as a drug, it should be appropriately soluble either in water or either in lipid in order to absorb easily. Is it clear? Now, coming to odor, it should not have a unpleasant odor. A unpleasant odor, drugs may produce a psychological feeling to the patient, that is the patient is unable, if it has an unpleasant odor, the patient is unable to take the drug. Therefore it should have a pleasant odor. In most cases it should be have a pleasant odor. Coming to the fifth one, it should not be harmful and it should not be corrosive. Any medicine which to be considered as a drug, it should not be harmful to human body, it should not be corrosive. We know some kind of the drugs may causes a corrosiveness to the epithelial layer when applied orally. When applied orally, for example, you take salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is a best example of analgesic one, but because of its strong acidity, it is unable to take directly by oral cavity or by the mouth. If we take the salicylic acid directly by the mouth, what happens? Because of its strong acidic nature, it will damage the epithelial layer called as corrosive nature. Therefore it is applied in its prodrug form, that is aspirin. We will discuss later. So it should not be harmful, it should not be corrosive. Followed by, it should be act in all age groups of the people or human bodies. Now, drugs are needed for children, drugs are needed for adults, and drugs are also needed for older people. Therefore, the drug must be a medicine to be considered as a drug. It must be act in all age groups, and it must be act in all regions and all countries of the people. So, again, any material that could be used for the treatment of certain particular diseases in order to relieve a patient from the disease by the process of either changing the mode of physiological as well as psychological functions for the benefit of patient could be considered as a medicine, not a drug. If a medicine to be considered as a drug, it should have certain important prescribed characteristic properties of these. Non-toxic, it should not be non-toxic, it should not produce side effect, it should be easily absorbed, distributed and excreted, easily synthesized and cheaply available. Desired physical properties should possess like solubility, odor, etc. And it should not harmful and it should not corrosive, and it should be act in all age groups of all regions of the all countries. So whatever the medicine, if possesses all these properties, there are some more properties. So any medicine if possesses these properties are called as a medicine. With all these benefited properties could be considered as a drug. Could be considered as a drug. Now, if a medicine failed to possess any one of these properties, any one of these desired property, it could not be considered as a drug. It could be considered as only medicine. Only medicine. Is it clear? So this is the definition of drug. Now coming to types of drugs. Coming to types of drugs. There are two broad kinds of or types of drugs. They are structurally specific drugs. they are structurally specific drugs and structurally non-specific drugs. Non-specific. So the drugs are broadly classified or comes under structurally specific drugs, structurally non-specific drugs. Coming to the first one, structurally specific drugs. Now, any drug in which its activity, whatever the activity, it may be either anti-cancer drug, it may be anti-ulcer drug, it may be anti-hypertensive drug, it may be whatever it may be, any drug in which its activity, if depends upon its structure, for example, you take aspirin, OCOCH3, acetyl salicylic acid is an aspirin. It could be used for analgesic activity. If we change its structure from acetyl salicylic acid into some other, are you following? Acetyl salicylic acid is a aspirin. It is a medicine or a drug for analgesic activity. If we change its structural property, like substituting the carbocyclic ring with the other ring, or substituting the hydrogens on aromatic system by the other substituents, or if we remove this oxygen, or if we remove the carboxylic acid group, it loses its analgesic activity. What it indicated? The analgesic activity of this drug depends upon its structure. If we change the structure, it may lose its activity. Sometimes it may change its activity. That indicates whatever the activity of the drug, if it depends upon its structure, those drugs are called as structurally specific drugs. Activity, if depending upon the structure, are called as structurally specific drugs. Why we are calling structurally specific means a small change in the structure of the drug, or either stereochemistry of the drug, a small changes of structure of the drug or stereochemistry of the drug, it may lose its activity or it may change its activity. Therefore, such drugs are called as structurally specific drugs. Is it clear? Now, structurally specific drugs, all the structurally specific, all the structurally specific drugs have their own target in the human body to exhibit their action or to show their action. All the structurally specific drugs have their own target to show their action. Before that, any drug in order to show its activity or its property in the human body, it must be bound appropriately with a target. That is, a drug do not show its activity without binding to the target. So a drug, in order to show its activity, it should be bound with the target. To form drug target complex. So any drug bound with its target, its respective. There are different type of target we will discuss in next class. That is called as drug targets. Drugs targets may be includes receptors, ion channels, enzymes, and carrier molecules. These are the four major types of targets to bound to the drug in order to show or in order to exhibit their action. So any drug, in order to show its activity, it must be appropriately bound with the target to form drug target complex. After formation of drug target complex in the human body, it starts its action. It starts its action. So the targets may be the drug targets. The targets available inside the human body to bound with the drugs are included receptor, ion channel, enzymes, carrier molecules. So these are the four major kind of the targets available in the body or in the cell. All the targets are belongings to protein material. Receptors are protein, ion channels are protein, enzymes are proteinous material, carrier molecules are also a protein material. We will discuss in the next class about the targets available, their structures and their functions. So a major kinds of the targets available in the human body depending upon the action we need. A drug goes to the target. After administration of the drug, it will integrated and it will absorbed and it will reach out to circulatory system, followed by reach out to target in order to bind. After binding to the target, it show its action. Is it clear? So every drug, in order to exhibit its action, it must be appropriately bound with its target. Now coming to the present topic. Now, a structurally specific drugs, all the structurally specific drugs have their own target. Not only aspirin, any structurally specific drug have its own target in our body. The target may be receptor, target may be ion channel, target may be enzyme, target may be carrier molecule depending upon the type of disease. So all the structurally specific drug have their own targets, their own specific targets to bound, to exhibit their action. Is it clear? Therefore, whatever the concentration of the drug applied, structurally specific drug applied, the whole concentration may be reached to its target only. Its target only. For example, you take anti-ulcer drugs. Anti-ulcer drugs are structurally specific drugs. Their action is needed in the digestive system. In the digestive system. So the anti-ulcer drug target is a digestive system. The targets existed in the digestive system. Therefore, whatever the anti-ulcer drug you apply or you take, that will reach out to digestive system and bound with their respective targets. Similarly, you take anti-cancer drugs. Anti-cancer drugs again are structurally specific. They have their targets at the cancer cells or at the cancerative cells in the human body or tumor sites. Therefore, the whole concentration of anti-cancer drug when we apply, the whole is reached to only cancerative or tumor cells and then bound the targets available in the tumor cells and exhibited their activity. In that way, every structurally specific drug have its own target to exhibit its action. Hence, the whole concentration which we apply must be reached to only its desired target. Therefore, their action is more. Therefore, their action is more. More action. So, all the structurally specific drug action is more. Similarly, now all the structurally specific drugs are used internally. Because it bind only with its respective receptor. Now that is, the drug is designed or made in such a way to be bind only with its respective receptor. Hence it reached to a target, and hence it bound with the target. Therefore activity is more, and they may not bind with the undesired target. Hence their action is more and are used as internally. So all the medicines, all the drugs internally used belongs to structurally specific. Again, the structurally specific drugs are the drugs where their action is depending upon their structure. Hence a smaller modification in their structurally modification, either a small change in the stereochemistry of the drug, they may lose their activity, their specific activity, or sometimes they may change their specific activity. Such kind of the drugs are called as structurally specific drug. You remember, every structurally specific drug has its own target to exhibit its action or its activity in human body. Therefore their action is more, because the whole is reached to only desired target. Hence their action is more. Suppose if you want to target one kind of drug to the central nervous system, when we apply it, it is designed in such a way to be reached to the central nervous system, to be bound with the respective receptors available in the central nervous system, not by the other targets available in other organ system. Therefore the whole is reached to central nervous system and bind with its respective receptor. Hence the concentration available at the respective receptor, respective target is more. Therefore its action is more. And all kind of structurally specific drugs are applied internally. We are using internally, either in the form of oral administration, or either in the form of injection, or either in the form of other routes available to be administer the drug to the human body. Is it clear? Now coming to the second type. Structurally non-specific drugs. Structurally non-specific drugs. The drugs in which their action, if not depends upon their structure. That is, the drugs in which their action is not depending upon their structure are called as structurally non-specific. The name itself indicated, where the activity does not related to its structure, where the activity does not depends upon its structure. Whatever the structure, they may show the same kind of activity. For example, you take acetone, you take chloroform, or you take CCl4, or you may take benzene, C6H6. Now these are some kind of medicines. Acetone, or either chloroform, or either CCl4, or either benzene, acts as anesthetics. These acts as anesthetics. Now these possesses an anesthetic activity. You observe, is there any relation between one molecule to the other molecule? No. Acetone structure is different from chloroform structure. It is different from CCl4 structure. All the three structures are different from benzene structure, but possesses the same kind of activity, that is anesthetic activity. That indicated what? Their anesthetic activity is not depends upon their structure. If that is so, then acetone if shows anesthetic activity, the chloroform should not. But here, irrespective of their structure, they shows their anesthetic activities. That means the activities are not depending upon their structure. Such kind of medicines or drugs are called as structurally non-specific drugs. Is it clear? Now, when their activity does not depend upon their structure, all the structurally non-specific drugs don't have any specific targets or any targets, their own targets to bind and to exhibit their activity. So a structurally non-specific drugs don't have their own specific targets to bind and to exhibit their activity. There is no any specific targets for these drugs. That means these kind of drugs, structurally non-specific drugs, may be act at any place, at anywhere of the body, because they don't have any target. Therefore, their action is less. When compared to structurally specific drug, the structurally non-specific drug action is less, because there is no target. If there is a target, the whole is reached to target, and the whole concentration exhibited their activity, hence more. But in such cases, there is no specific target in order to bind and exhibit the drug action. Therefore, the activity of structurally non-specific drugs are less. Further, because of non-availability of their own target, they don't have any targets in our body. If we internally applied these kind of if the structurally non-specific drugs, if internally applied, what happens? They show their action at anywhere. They have no target, they have no specific goal or no specific target in order to reach, to bind and to show the action. Hence, all the structurally non-specific drugs are used only external purposes, because they have no target, their action is less, they may show some toxicity or side effect. Therefore, all the structurally non-specific drugs are externally used. Example includes ointments. Ointments, where always the ointments are used are applied only epithelially, only external epithelial layers, not it is internally used. Similarly, creams, some kind of creams, lotions like turpentine oil, where the turpentine oil is a good pain reliever, but it never internally applied. It applied only at the site of pain externally. However, it is a good pain reliever, but because of its corrosive nature, it internally not used, because it is a specifically the structurally non-specific drug or a medicine. Similarly, eye drops or ear drops, where the eye drops are applied only on surface of that is epithelial layer of the eye, that is cornea. Similarly, ear drops are also externally used. So all the structurally non-specific drugs are used only externally, whereas structurally specific drugs are used internally. This is the types of drug and their action. Now, next topic is drug action. Now, there are two types of drug actions. One is pharmacokinetic action. action, pharmacokinetic action. The other one is pharmacodynamic action, dynamic action, pharmacokinetic action and pharmacodynamic action. So every drug has the two actions, pharmacokinetic action and pharmacodynamic action. Just now I told you, any kind of the drug, in order to show or exhibit its action, it must be bound with the target. A drug bound to the target, this is target, to form drug target complex. Any drug, to exhibit its action, it goes to its target and bound with its target. Depending upon its structure, different kinds of binding interactions are involved. We will discuss in another technique the interaction between drug and target. So a drug, after binding with the target, it forms drug target complex. From the complex we can observe the activity, action. So from the drug target complex we may observe the action of the drug. So the drug, after formation of its drug target complex, it starts its functioning or it show its action. So this is general phenomena happen between the drug and the target with respect to its action. Coming to the drug action, so every drug has two actions, pharmacokinetic action, pharmacodynamic action. Coming to pharmacokinetic action, the initial consequences of the drug before binding to the drug target, before binding to target. Are you following? We are discussing about so every drug has the two action. Now first one is pharmacokinetic action, other one is pharmacodynamic action. Now we are studying or discussing about pharmacokinetic action. The initial consequences of any drug before binding to the target is called as its pharmacokinetic action. Its pharmacokinetic action. That is, first, for the treatment of any kind of disease, we have to take a drug. Some drugs are applied in the form of tablets, some drugs are applied in the form of capsules, some other are applied in the form of gas, some other are applied in the form of solution, that is injection. Say for example, you take a tablet. When we apply the tablet or administer the tablet to the patient, it reaches to digestive system through an intestine. When a tablet is reached, when a solid drug is reached to digestive system, where it will get disintegrated into a coarse material, followed by further disintegrated into a powder, and then it disintegrated into a fine powder, and followed by a suspension. It will transformed after that from that suspension into a solution, that is a solid drug. After its administration, it reaches to digestive system, where it will get disintegrated into coarse, followed by a powder, followed by a fine powder, followed by a suspension. All of you are know what is suspension. A suspension followed by it is turned into a solution, and then it will absorbed by the tissue. So a drug in its solution form only is capable to absorbed by the tissue. So after absorption by the tissue, the drug is injected or reached to circulatory system. Through the circulatory system, the drug is reached to its target. The drug is reached to its target to bind. So we are discussing about pharmacokinetic action. All these are the consequences which we have discussed now. All the consequences of the drug, initial consequences of the drug before binding to the target is called as pharmacokinetic action. The pharmacokinetic action includes drug administration, and absorption. Drug administration and drug absorption, and then drug distribution. It also includes drug distribution. Drug distribution, and the third, it includes drug metabolism. Drug metabolism. Drug metabolism, followed by the last one and fourth one is drug excretion from the body. So the initial consequences of the drug before binding to the drug includes called as pharmacokinetic action. That includes drug administration and absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion. In brief, abbreviated as ADME. ADME, where A is the absorption, distribution, metabolism. M stands for metabolism, E stands for excretion. So these comes under pharmacokinetic action. Now we will discuss each and every topic, that is the routes of drug administration, where and how it is absorbed, and how it is distributed in the human body, and how it is undergoes metabolism called as drug metabolism, and how it is excreted after its action from our body in order to prevent the body to protect from the side effect. So every topic we will discuss each and every topic with a specific examples. That is a pharmacokinetic action. Now coming to pharmacodynamic action. The consequences that happen after binding a drug to its target. So whatever the consequences that happen after binding a drug with its target are called as pharmacodynamic action. So in between the drug and the target before binding to it called as pharmacokinetic action. So whatever the consequences we observe, whatever the activity we observed from the drug called as pharmacodynamic action. Now in the next class, that is in the tomorrow's class, we will discuss about drug administration, drug distribution, drug metabolism, drug excretion. After completion of pharmacokinetic action, we will also discuss in detail about pharmacodynamic action. After this drug action, we will go for study of our syllabus, the drug discovery and drug design. Why we need the drug discovery and why we need the drug design. So with this I conclude my lecture, today's first lecture. So all my dearest students, you please, I appeal, you please thoroughly follow my video lecture with a high concentration, and you please write down the notes which I am sending related to this lecture. So I can send, initially I told that I can send every lecture notes, written notes to you after listening my class, my video lecture. You please write down my notes, and you please read twice per day to be prepared well in order to execute your ability regarding the concept or regarding the subject during the examination, in order to get more percentage, in order to get more opportunities. Thank you one and all.